Not too many years after this picture was taken, the young man decided that he wanted to be a theatrical producer. What a very good idea that was. We're thrilled to have an exclusive interview with the man who has brought us all these marvellous shows and many, many more, Cameron Mackintosh.
I had been to drama school instead of going to university, but my methods of getting a show on at the drama school wasn't the same as theirs, and they decided that after a year I'd be better to go off to the theatre rather than studying Euripides, which I completely agreed with them. And as I'd been thinking for years I was going to be a producer, I decided I had to get a job, and the only job I could get was as a stagehand. So I got a job as a temporary stagehand at Drury Lane, but that only paid £7 a week back in the 60s, and I needed at least double that because I didn't want to live out in the sticks in London. I wanted to get a flat in the West End. And so in order to get the rent for the flat in the West End, I had to get up in the morning, or pretend to, and sweep the bars and clean the bars in the morning. So I did that in the morning and did the shows at night. And I had a very, very happy time doing it. For me, it's always the writers. They have the inspiration. With Les Miserables, somebody had brought the original French concept album of that show and said anyone mad enough to put T.S. Eliot's poems on stage should at least listen to Les Miserables. And I did, and I thought it was extraordinary. I never thought it was going to be an enormous hit that it's become, but you know, the most I thought is that it was an original piece, wonderful music, and it might run a couple of years. And it turned out to be one of the most marvellous experiences of my life. Les Miserables is arguably the greatest novel that's ever been turned into a musical. It's impossible to underestimate how much it was considered a sort of iconic revolutionary piece, which was actually addressing all the ills of the 19th century. Of course, Claude Michel has written some marvellous tunes, and between he and Alain Boublil and, of course, the words of Herbie Kretzmer, they have actually taken the essence of the novel. It's about survival of the human spirit, something that obviously appeals to everyone, and also it's about a chase. And you recognise everybody on the journey. Humanity never learns from itself. You know, all the characters that Hugo wrote about are easily recognisable characters now in every country. And that's what an audience relates to.
One more day.
You can see the world's longest running musical Les Miserables in London, where it all began, now playing at the Queen's Theatre. But the young producer's shows were not always this successful.
In the early days, when I worked with a marvellous old actor manager called Patrick Desmond, who managed to keep out of debtor's prison by changing his name. And he taught me everything I should know, and a lot of stuff I shouldn't know about surviving as a producer. And in those days, of course, before the internet, it took a long time for checks to clear. So he had a very, very good system. He said, look, you have to have 3 bank accounts, one in the West End of London, and I did have one indeed at Leicester Square, round the corner from this theatre, and one in Scotland, preferably with a royal precept, and another one in Northern Ireland, and another one in the Channel Islands. And he said that way it would take 3 weeks for the checks to clear. So with a bit of luck, you will have made some money in between so that you could keep the whole process rolling. And it was called putting a cheque on the road. And indeed, I have to say, it was a very, very good system and got me out of a lot of problems. Well, the interesting thing with Phantom is that the idea came from Andrew Lloyd Webber, and he rang me up at home one day and said, what did I think of doing The Phantom as a show? And I said, oh, that sounds a good idea. It was just instinctive like that. At the time, he didn't actually want to write the score. He just wanted the pair of us to have fun producing it. But over the next few months, he came to realise that actually it was a great score for him to write. And that was partly because he was married to Sarah Brightman at the time, and he was writing and using her voice, Requiem, for his father who'd just passed away. So all of that sort of clicked, and he suddenly got the idea of how to write the score of Phantom.
Ask away, it's me they hear. My spirit and your voice in one combined. The Phantom of the Opera is there inside your
And I thought, the only way we can make this be real and have an emotional impact is if I get a wonderful design which takes you into the world. And into my head, who knows why, Maria Björnsson came into my head. I didn't really know her very well, but I felt in my bones that we could never make the show work unless I had Maria. So I actually started on the show with Maria Björnsson, the original marvellous designer, long before Andrew and I had a show, or indeed he even thought that he would write it. And that's never happened to me with any show, because what Maria came up with was so wonderful. And of course, Hal Prince and Gillian Lynne, staged her visual imagery brilliantly, but she was there along with the composer in the creation of this piece. Phantom is actually the simplest of stories. It's Beauty and the Beast. It's mythic, and its simplicity is its strength. And with Her Majesty's Theatre, where Phantom is, we actually designed the physical production to take over that marvellous old theatre using, with modern technology, the original understage scenic devices. There is something about seeing something where it began, which is very special. So you're actually seeing it with the style of acting that the shows were created for.
Close your eyes and surrender to your darkest dreams.
Now in its 23rd year, the Phantom of the Opera still reigns at Her Majesty's Theatre. This show has won over 50 major awards the world over and was honoured here in London again with the 2002 Laurence Olivier Audience Award for Most Popular Show. In addition to bringing us some of the most spectacular and enduring shows of all time, Cameron also owns 7 of the most beautiful theatres in the West End, all of which have been magnificently restored in keeping with their original architectural style by his company, Delfont Mackintosh Theatres.
Every single theatre is bespoke. An architectural design should be driven by the building if you're going to bring the best out of it. The theatres I've got have their own personality that give me the challenge of turning these buildings, which are wonderfully historic and have had some of the greatest actors that have ever lived play their stages, but I wanted to make them all work for every level of the audience. And I wanted to make sure that the bars, loos, there was no social difference between the category, so that wherever you seat, everyone has the same feeling in the theatre, and that they are all treated as special people. And I'm really pleased that the public have actually noticed the difference. Of course, this one has a particular feeling for me, as I started off and got my first job in Oliver here.
Avenue Q, a hilarious, innovative musical for a whole new generation of theatre-goers, and it's in its 3rd successful year in London.
Everyone's a little bit racist. All right. All right. All right. All right. Bigotry has never been exclusively white.
And I know that you
What?
would accept me too.
I would?
If I told you today, hey, guess what? I'm gay, but I'm not gay.
When I saw the show in New York, I thought, this is the most original, funny, outrageous show I've seen for a long time, and I would love it in one of my theatres.
Internet is really, really great.
For porn.
I got a fast connection, so I don't have to wait.
For porn.
What I love about the songs in Avenue Q is that they're songs about real life. That's the irony. It's a show which has a lot of puppets as well as humans in it who interact and as if they are the same to each other, that actually all the songs are about real problems that real people have to love. And that's one of the things when they said, well, what changes are you going to make for London? And I said, virtually none, because the things that affect students in America are the same things that affect students and young people trying to find a job and, you know, a purpose in life in anywhere else in the world. And that's why the show has worked so well.
Is there anybody here it doesn't suck to be? It sucks to be me. But not when we're together. We're together here on Avenue Q. We live on Avenue Q. Our friends do too.
This big-hearted, life-affirming musical has audiences laughing out loud and coming back for more night after night.
Welcome to Avenue Q.
And beginning on the 12th of December, Cameron will present a new production of Oliver, one of the most beloved British musicals. Cameron promises that this new production will be fantastic.
I had many years when I lived in London. For the last 10 years I've lived in the country, and you know that I could, you know, I have cows. I'm a dairy farmer. I don't do the milking myself, but our milk goes to produce a very good cheddar, and that's how I like to live my life. And I want to enjoy my life as much as I enjoy the theatre. And I think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have the same enthusiasm now as I did when the show started.
Thank you, Mr. Producer.